Hi, we are the How Guys here in Houston, Texas at the Anime at the Alamo. I'm Christian Ocampo, and today I'm joined by Matt Greenfield. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Good, it's good here. So, since it just premiered the screening of Vampire Hunter D, what's it like working in the industry?
You know, I don't even remember what it's like not to work in the industry. We started originally with ADV Films nearly 25 years ago, and prior to that, I was running anime fan clubs and working conventions in the Houston area, and it's all been kind of a big blur for me. It's one of those things where you periodically you sit up and go like, I do this for a living? Holy cow. But I don't know, it's one of those weird things, just like, what am I doing here? I don't know, I did something right.
Alright, that's good. So, what's your favorite anime that you've worked on?
Oh man, the favorite anime that I've worked on, that's a, hold on, ooh, ghostly beings passing through. Favorite anime that I've worked on, I don't know, it's kind of a strange choice, but I really enjoyed doing a show about a girls' baseball team I did called Princess Nine. I think primarily because it was something that nobody really expected us to do. I just happened to be in Japan watching television, and that show came on. I said, holy cow, what is this thing? And just got totally hooked. And because I was kind of instrumental on the fact that it even came to the U.S. and just really love that show. It's been probably my most favorite, but there's so many shows I've worked on that are just, you know.
So, what was that working on Vampire Hunter D since we just saw it?
Vampire Hunter D was interesting because there's an existing dub that was done by Carl Masick, and the marching orders I was given were pretty much, we want to be as faithful as possible both to the source material and to the canon that's been established since then, because when it was originally released, the books had not been translated into English, so a lot of what they did on that original version was guesswork based on, well, maybe this is what's going on. Now all the books have been translated into English, and we have definitive, this is the character's name, this is what's going on, this is the backstory, and we tried to make it a lot more reflective of what's going on in the novels. So it's a challenge because it's something that's been done before, but at the same time, you're trying to do justice to the source material. So.
Yeah, especially the redubbing, yeah.
Well, it's like, you know, no matter what we do, there's always going to be that other version. So our take on it was say, well, let's just go ahead and do the best job that we can, be as faithful as we can, and not try and put too much of a different kind of stamp on it other than what's originally there.
Okay, that's good. So, what was it like working on Battle Angel? It's got a lot of stories from what I heard.
Oh boy, Battle Angel was crazy. When we originally acquired the title, the manga was very popular in the U.S., and it was expected that that animated series was going to go on for a while, so we had picked up the first two, and it was kind of daunting because everyone kind of knew those characters going in, but at the same time, there were things we couldn't do. The name Alita, which was used for the manga in the U.S., we didn't own the rights to that, so we had to go with the original actual Japanese names, Gamu and Gali for the heroine. So I remember that was one of the big concerns right then was, you know, can we get away with calling it Battle Angel as opposed to just Gamu, which is gun dream, literally, if I recall correctly. But the technology we had back then was nowhere near as advanced as what we have now. These days we can do a lot more as far as making voices and everything fit within certain periods of time by squeezing and compressing, and it doesn't sound really affected. Back then, if you did anything like that, it tended to be very obvious. So when we were doing those big, huge fight sequences, everyone pretty much had to hit everything dead on doing it live. And I remember that Amanda Wynn Lee, who played Gali, literally during the middle of one of the big fight sequences between the character Grishka that I voiced and her character, she literally passed out in the middle of a take because she was doing so much simultaneously that she just ran out of air. She did this huge karate scream and a bunch of things, and all of a sudden we hear this thump, and we look over and she's not in the booth. I said, Amanda, where are you? Amanda? Out for a second. She just got so totally woozy that she just couldn't even sit on the stair anymore. It was really... But at the same time, it was a great show to do because it had this fantastic universe that we knew more or less where that universe was going to go. I've always been really sad that they didn't make any more of the anime, but the show was licensed. The manga was licensed by Lightstorm Entertainment for a motion picture version, which still hasn't been made. Thank you very much, James Cameron. And that kind of locked them off from doing anything else with it.
Quite a story over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it like working on Gantz?
Gantz, oh boy. Yeah, Gantz was a show that they kind of came to me and said, okay, look, no one else is really comfortable doing this show. The big thing on Gantz was, believe it or not, when we started doing it, we were actually thinking, well, maybe this could go on television. I don't know what was in our minds when we started doing that. And we started on working on the first episode doing alternate line reads for the characters. And think, well, this would be the television dub. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't work. We got about an episode in and said, okay, this is ridiculous. People going, gosh, darn, in the middle of Gantz. It just didn't. I said, you know what? They're just gonna have to bleep it out if they run it on TV, and that's it. Because in Japan there actually was a TV version of it. It just had less gore, But it's like we just finally said, you know what? We're just gonna go for it. We're just the extreme version is what we're gonna go for. The other fun part on it was casting it because I would have to upfront tell people, look, this is what it's going to happen, and are you okay with this kind of thing? Because you don't want someone in the studio going like, what is that dog doing? So it was interesting. Like I said, it was fun. It was great because it's such a crazy, over-the-top show. And I think if I recall correctly, that was Chris Ayres' first lead in a show, and he had a blast playing the lead. So
Such a gory show.
it was a fun show.
All right. What was it like working on Razafon?
Razafon. That was an interesting one because having worked on Evangelion, it was a show that people immediately wanted to compare it to, and they're really entirely different. What I loved about Razafon is that it's really a story about character interaction, and everything else is kind of this huge, elaborate setup is really about the two characters getting into time sync with each other. And that made it really fun because we had to have the relative ages of Chris Patton's character and Monica Rial's character slowly shifting over the course of the show as they kind of fell back into where they were before all the story began. So it was a really interesting show when you're playing with things that are like, what is really real, what is perceived. It was a good show. I mean, and the fact that it had the whole musical element tying it all together. I don't know. When you're doing these shows, you tend to get very immersed in that universe. So you're almost talking in a different language, and everyone on the project has to be in that same mental state. So it's hard now going back and thinking, where were we coming from when we were doing it. But I think the biggest thing is we were just trying to tell basically a very small human story with this epic backdrop.
So is there anything coming out that you can talk about, or anything you want to plug in this time?
Oh, boy.
Non-disclosure agreements, right?
It's more actually a case of I don't actually know what's coming out next that's really up for being announced. There's so many shows that go through production nowadays that what's actually been announced I don't want to get ahead of. So I know what's coming down for the next year and a half or so, but I'm not sure how far they've actually gone ahead and put it out, and they don't like us to mention anything until it's actually been officially put out and solicited.
Makes sense. So, and we ask this to all the voice actors or directors, any Facebook, Twitter, or any other social media for the fans to follow you?
Not really. I have a Facebook page. It's just my name, Matt Greenfield. But I'll be honest, I don't post on it a whole lot because I'm too busy doing other things. And about every month or so, I'll go on there and like, okay, I'll put in the people who are friends and so on, and maybe post one or two things. But honestly, don't have the time for it most of the time. I should do it. I know I should do it. But it's like, at the end of the day, after watching anime all day long, it's a terrible, horrible job. Nobody wants that job, watching anime all day long. Last thing I want to do is sit there and stare at a screen for much longer.
Now we understand. All right. Well, thank you, Ron, for joining us, and we thank you, Matt, for letting us interview you.
Sure.
So everyone, tune us in for next time for another episode of the Ohio Guys. I'm Christian Ocampo.
I'm Matt Greenfield.
And we'll see you next time.
Well, he will, not me.